Hello, welcome. Welcome to the perfect listing. Yes, all right, yeah, let's try. I like this crowd. This is the best one yet. No, this is the first one, and I'll say that to the next one. Okay. So one thing we have to say, which you've been informed, is no video or photos of the content. You can take the photos of the uglier side over here of us. That's beautiful content, that's why. But so yeah, I guess no video or photos of the content, please. But anything else goes in this room. So, yeah. Why? Well, apparently it's being shared out and stuff is happening, and somebody that's more important than me told me that we should do that. So, yeah. But we're excited to be here today. We love being with sellers. Both of us sell a little bit on the side as well, and this always energizes us to understand the real needs that you have. A lot of times we feel like we know what you need, but being here and talking to you really helps us understand that and move forward. So my name is Devin Payne.
And I am Chris Van Wagner, and we represent the platform and programs team. And as Devin mentions, our job is to engage with our sellers, understand what those barriers are that exist in growing their businesses on the platform, and then go back to eBay, go back to headquarters, and figure out how we solve for those, whether it be through tools or policies or whatever it might take to ensure that you guys are successful.
So today, we're going to talk about how you optimize your listing for the buyer journey. And we're going to look at it from first the e-commerce perspective of get found, drive clicks, make the sale, right? That's how do I get someone to the first page, or how do I get myself as a seller on the first page? And then once I'm there, how do I get a buyer to actually look at those 50 to 200 competitors and click on me? What kind of things can I do to do that? And then finally, once I've got them into my listing, how do I convert, right? What are the things to do to actually close that sale? And these match up with our performance tab metrics. So impressions, click-through rate, and conversion. And so as you're going through this presentation, make sure to look at those metrics, and if you see those going up or down, you'll know that it's probably fitting into some of the elements that we're looking at in each of these sections. So today we're going to equate it to a grocery store visit, something we're all familiar with. And we're going to say eBay is the grocery store, okay? We've built the place, we're driving the traffic, as you saw in the marketing, we're trying to get more buyers into that front door, the sliding door is open, they're inside. Now it's all on you. So now you have to get them to the right aisle. And once they're in the aisle looking at all of the wall of spaghetti sauce, which one do they pick, right? There's a million spaghetti sauces. Which one do they pick, and why would they pick yours? You know, what kind of things can you do to make sure they're picking yours out of all the competition? And then finally, they've got it in their hand, they're looking at it. That's the view item page, right? This is the final closer, and then they add it to the cart, right? Yeah, so that one matches up. But that's how we're going to talk about it today, and we'll start out with how do we get them to the aisle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess first, before we get started, a lot of this is going to be a refresher. We've shared this with some of the other groups, but one thing that we'd ask is that as you take a look at some of these topics that we present, think of maybe one or two things that you could take back to your business and really optimize. I think in addition to that, one of the things that Devin and I are really excited to share are just some of the tools that we've developed to help each of these steps a little bit easier as you're listing your products. And again, that's kind of our charge, is to create tools and processes and policies to make you successful as sellers on the platform. So right now we're talking about getting found. And what's the best way to get your listings found? Well, we're going to talk about structured data here. And if you remember back to Hal and Mohan's presentation the other day, this was a slide that they shared. They shared the history of that buyer journey on eBay, how initially it was just a keyword-based search, and if the buyer found exactly what they were looking for, great. If they didn't, they were probably going to another platform. Maybe they weren't buying anything at all. And so what we've done is we've taken that and evolved it, and last year, this year, we started to incorporate structured data into how buyers shopped so that they could be presented with a plethora of products, a spectrum of value, in order to show all of the different conditions and price points that existed on the site. So, structured data. What is structured data? And I guess more importantly, what is a product identifier? So this is a G10, a global trade item number. And that actually is seen as a UPC, an ISBN if you're listing books, EANs if you're listing products from Europe. And these are identification numbers that allow us as eBay, going back to Devin's analogy, to take the products that you have listed and get them on the right aisle. Because as a buyer is looking for different products, we want to make sure that they're appearing, again, on the right aisle and not over by the dog food, right? Especially if you're listing spaghetti sauce.
Right. Easily confused.
Exactly. So this allows us to improve search results through Google and Bing. This also allows us to provide the products that you list with a product-based shopping experience treatment, which we'll show here in a demonstration in just a little bit. But these are critical to, again, making sure that those listings that you create are optimized for all of the different ways that buyers come to the site and look at different items. So like I said, we're going to go through a demonstration real quick and just show you all the different ways that buyers leverage those product identifiers you provide in their journey to find that right item. So today I'm searching for a Samsung TV. So my buyer journey starts on Google. So I type in Samsung TV. You'll notice there towards the top that eBay is actually invested in getting some exposure for you as sellers on the site for those products that you have listed. And we've highlighted shop eBay TV on eBay and get campus ready with savings. So that jumps out to me on the page, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that. How many people have seen pages like this? This is what we call a browse page. This helps kind of funnel that experience as buyers are trying to find exactly what they're looking for. It starts in the upper section. If I'm looking for a TV, shows some different screen sizes that are available on the site, some different brands. Again, I'm looking for a Samsung TV today, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Samsung. And you'll see here that I'm presented with a number of different options. 2160p TVs. As you scroll down here, one thing that's really interesting to me as a buyer is there's a section now that calls out those items that are top rated, meaning of the items that have been purchased, product reviews have been left, and buyers really like those products that they purchased. So that first option right there is a Samsung 8 Series TV. And so that's again, standing out to me, so I'll go ahead and click that. And now I'm taken to that product-based shopping experience. And again, all of this, from appearing in search results in Google, to finding these items on the browse page, to this product page. Everything is powered by those product identifiers, the UPCs, the ISBNs, the EANs that you provide us, because we can't categorize those appropriately if we don't know exactly what you're selling. So as I take a look at this page, again, one thing that stands out to me is, gosh, that curved 65-inch 4K TV sure looks nice. I'm going to click to see details because I want to understand a little bit more about it. And I'm taken to a very familiar page, the View Item page. And this is where you as a seller have a chance to brand your business, to offer up additional details about that product so that you can help the buyer understand whether or not they want to buy it. And so from here, I want to make that purchase, so I go ahead and I click on the Buy It Now and purchase that TV that I was looking for.
Yeah, and so imagine this grocery store example again. You send a product to us in a brown box, and we have no information. We don't know where to put it, right? And that's what's happening when you pass something to us without some sort of identification, a product identifier. We don't know where to put it. We can't give you trending prices. We can't do product reviews. None of that stuff can be done, which leads to more clicks and more sales. And so product identifiers, and that is the most important part of being found, getting the buyer to your aisle. Another one here is item specifics. And these perform a similar function in that these populate our left navigation and a lot of the browse that's happening on eBay. So when somebody searches for something and then they narrow it down by a red shirt or an extra large or 8 gigabyte, any of that filtering, if you're not using item specifics or product identification, your listing will not show up. The merchandising we're doing, where we've removed third-party ads and we've put in promoted listings and we're populating the homepage, All of the merchandising we're doing on the site is pulled from these product identifiers, so it's extremely important that you're using those. Item specifics. So these are great, and we know how important they are, as I just mentioned. And so we've built a tool that maybe some of you have seen. It just ramped to 100% of sellers, I believe, on Monday. But you may have seen it early. And so this is something that's in the create a listing flow as well as the revise a listing flow. And so as you come in here and you click on create listing within Seller Hub, now you're starting to type your title. You type in red Nike shoes, size 8, basketball, high tops. You're giving us some information. You're adding your category. And as you're scrolling down, where the magic is happening all behind the scenes, and we are now recommending item specifics for you up here. So we're saying, hey, from your title and category, we're seeing that you should probably add red, 8, basketball shoes, Nike. And if you want to add 3 of those, go ahead and just add each one individually. But we're going to say, I'm going to accept all of this, and it drops it right into your item specifics for you. Really cool, right? Yeah, so hold the applause, please, for, I'm just kidding, no. I'm kidding, no. No, yeah, so, there, yeah, we got that one. Bob got it this morning, right? Okay. Okay. So yeah, this is one I'm really excited about because it's quick and it helps you think of recommendations that maybe you didn't think of, and it just makes it quicker. So we're going to get better at this as we go along, but this is actually from data that you're providing us, and we're then fulfilling these recommendations.
Do we have any consignment sellers here with us today? Okay, we have a couple. So this is one question. Devin and I worked with some consignment sellers a few years back, and that was one question that they had for us is, if I'm bringing this item to the platform that I don't really understand or know, without spending an inordinate amount of time researching this product to make sure I have item specifics and some of these other things, how can I compete with other sellers that are primarily selling these items? And this is one way that they do that. Through the one-click functionality, you adopt those item specifics that other sellers are already using to make your product competitive. So really exciting stuff.
And one more thing that I forgot to mention, these show up first on mobile, right underneath the image. So all those item specifics are showing up. As you've seen on mobile, you actually have to click in to get to your item description, but all the item specifics show up right on the first view of mobile.
That's exactly right. So now we're talking about titles. So this is another key element to creating the perfect listing. And this is something that every seller here is very familiar with. So we won't spend a ton of time talking about titles, but one thing we wanted to highlight, has anybody been to the Title Builder website? So it's actually, so a few of you, it's actually a great website. They did a study not long ago. They took a look at 900,000 or so listings on the eBay platform and compared all of their different characteristics to see what increased the likelihood of sale. And one thing that they called out with titles specifically was that a longer title with more relevant keywords improved the likelihood of sale, increased the average velocity. And so as you're looking at your listings, sometimes time is a factor as you're creating your listings, but one thing that you don't want to skimp on, based on this study and some of the studies that we've done internally, are your titles. So make sure you're using those relevant keywords and using up all 80 characters if you can, so that the buyer knows exactly what they're clicking into and what they could be purchasing.
Yeah, that was important. Sorry? The order can matter. So we say to front load the most important, because on eBay you see 80 characters, but on mobile or Google or somewhere else you may not see all 80 characters. So there's that. And then just our SEO, he's not here today, but he's the SEO king of eBay, and he said, yes, it matters to front load your keywords.
Yeah, one thing that he actually brought up with us in a conversation we had yesterday was that in terms of title relevancy, each word down the line gets less relevant to a buyer as they're looking for different things. So,
but
definitely
still using
important. So use all the characters, use as many keywords, relevant keywords as you can. And then front load those best ones, like brand and the product itself are important to be in those first 2 or 3.
So driving clicks, now we've done the work, we've got them to the aisle, we put up the proper signage, they found the aisle, spaghetti aisle, now they're looking at the wall of products, right? You've got the first task done, but now there's competition. So what do you do to actually be clicked at this point? So we're going to look at a few different things here. So first off, let's just look at the search results page on eBay. This is our wall of spaghetti. What do you see? What stands out to you? What would make you want to click on this page or maybe not click on one of these listings? Photos. We've heard that. That's been the first thing that's been said in all 3 of the workshops we've done so far. Okay? Fast and free, top-rated seller. Anything else? Nope. No. Yeah, okay, price. I was going to say, everyone here is loaded because nobody cares about the price. But, yeah, so all of these things. So if you look at this first photo, so, it looks like it's on a kitchen table. If this is any of your listing, it's okay. It's fine. But it looks like it's on a kitchen table, and it says it's new, but it's not in a box, right? And it makes me feel like the whole professionalism of the transaction may be in question. Are they gonna package it right? Are they gonna ship it on time? But when I see the other ones that are, filling that frame and looking really good, it helps me feel the professionalism of that. The price, right? Also, only one left. There's some urgency that we help drive, that we put into there to help drive the urgency of that sale. Fast and free. If you have a nephew that needs this basketball next week, that's going to drive me to click on that listing versus another listing, right? And then finally, the promotion, 15% off, and we're all looking for deals, and we'll dive into each of these topics in a little more detail. But when you put up your listings, search for them. Look for them on the desktop, look for them on mobile, see what you look like in comparison to the others around you. Pricing tool, there's a workshop. Has anyone been to the growth workshop with Vikas? Has anyone been to that one yet? No? Oh, this will be good then, all right. We're going to show you just a quick view of what we're doing to help you with pricing guidance. And so this is really important because a lot of times as sellers, we list our item and then we don't change the price for months. Does anyone do that? No? Nobody's willing to? I do that. You list it, you forget it, and then we just complain about why we're not getting sales, right? So I do that, we all do that, probably to some degree. But now within the Growth tab, so if you click on the Growth tab within Seller Hub, now we're able to show you some of your underperforming listings where you may be able to update your price and make more sales. And again, I would say use our data that we're providing as a North Star for you. You don't have to take our recommendation. You definitely can. We're putting a lot of work behind it. But at least we want you to have the data to make sure that you know what's happening. So if we look at this one in particular, this one right here is saying, hey, my price is $189.95. The recommended price is just about $4 cheaper. So I'm gonna hit this drop down. I can either match the price by just clicking that button, or I can analyze it a little bit deeper. So right here, now we're looking at, all right, you can accept the price that eBay's recommending, or you can change it to whatever you want. This line, again, remember we just talked about, we just set it and forget it. That top line is the seller, just straight. And those dots are where all the sales are happening. So that recommended price is gonna drop you just a little bit. So you see that line of dots right below? It's gonna drop you to just start hitting some of those dots and get some of those sales that are happening at a few dollars below where you're at currently. Okay? And then even better, down here, these listings on the far right have all ended, but at least it shows you what they sold for. They were single item quantities, so they sold for cheaper and they were done. But you can look at your nearest competitor, what they're selling. You can compare your shipping cost to theirs, your condition to theirs, your returns accepted to theirs, and see how many you've sold versus how many are available. And you get a quick look at all your competition. So this one is really cool because it gives you just a quick glance at what you can do with pricing with a lot of internal and external data. So some of that, the graphic that you see up there includes external data that's not on eBay.
So on to photos. That was called out in the beginning. That's actually called out in all of our presentations when we take a look at that example with the basketballs. Photos are just so important to that experience. One thing that comes to mind as I think about photographs, that there are more neurons dedicated to vision than the other senses combined. So it's probably pretty important, as we're thinking about our listings, that we get our visual aspects right. And photographs are the first part of that. So we all take images We're all looking at other sellers' listings to try and figure out what best practices we need to apply. We wanted to highlight just a few things. The first is make sure that you have a clean white background. There are a number of different ways to do that. You can do that with software. There are photo boxes that you can purchase to make that experience just a little bit better. But after that, think about resolution, think about dimension. In terms of resolution, the thing that we recommend on the site is that you use at least a resolution of 800 pixels on the longest side. This will allow you to capitalize on the enlarge functionality that exists on the view item page. We've actually seen listings and images taken that are upwards of 1600 by 1600 pixels. Again, making sure that the seller, as they're uploading those images, that they maximize that experience and ensure that the buyer has as much detail as possible to make that decision. In terms of dimensions, we talked about filling that frame, and the way that we do that is making sure that it is a square dimension. That'll also help with the mobile experience, because if we have that square dimension, it'll avoid some of the stretching that can occur if it's too long or too wide and doesn't fill that frame on the eBay platform. In addition to just some of those best practices, take advantage of the functionalities that exist on the eBay platform. Things like auto enhance and sharpen will just help your picture stand out a little bit better and really pop as the buyer's taking a look at the different listings that are available.
We just had a conversation here right before the presentation that the image search that is coming out on eBay, right, where you take a picture of an image on Pinterest and then it gives you search results. If your shirt is crinkled up or it's not filling the frame, our image recognition isn't going to put that in the search results page, right? So the better you make your image look and the more recognizable, the more you'll get caught up in those searches as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, finally, promotions, right? Has anyone in here bought anything at full price in the last month or so that wasn't like a home in California or something? Or an Apple product? Anyone? Yeah? So there's about 3 or 4 hands. These are the people with the money in the crowd, so find them. But shoppers don't buy things at full price anymore, hardly at all. There's almost always a strike through, there's almost always a deal, there's almost always a sale, right? So if your listings 100% across the board have one price, no strike through, the buyer's gonna feel like they're not beating the system. They're gonna feel like they're not getting a deal at all. And so it's important to find a way to make that, to pull on that kind of like that buyer heartstring to make sure that they feel like they're getting some sort of deal. And Promotions Manager is a great way to do that. So that tool is something that 11% on the data that we have of sellers that use that saw an increase in GMV of 11%. And one thing that it does is it takes those precious clicks, right? You've got the buyer to the aisle, they're looking at you. There's only so many that are going to click on you, so it takes that and it puts just the one item you had and adds 3 more below it. So each click is worth 4 view item page, at least views of your product versus just the one. So make sure you're just thinking about this. There's a whole workshop about our marketing tools, so we won't go into a lot here, but it's really important to think about the buyer psyche and why they're doing this, right? So we've got them to the aisle. We got them now to grab our spaghetti sauce because of our pictures, our price. You guys have seen at Target in the cereal aisle all the things that are sticking out. Those are the ones I go to because those are the cheap ones, right? So we've done all that thing. We've got them to buy our product or put the product in their hand. Now we're talking about closing the sale, right? I think we've been calling this the don't blow it section, right? You've got them there. If you've gotten someone all the way to your view item page, they're pretty close to purchasing. You've gone through all these other steps. So make the sale, and why would we talk about mobile first? Mobile is 50% of the GMV on eBay, 61% of transactions touch mobile, meaning that even if they don't check out on a mobile device, they looked at it on a mobile device more than half the time. So when you list your items, how many of you look at your items after you list them on a mobile or an iPad device? Yeah? Yeah, so make sure you're doing that, because if that's more than half of our transactions, it's half of our GMV and more than half of the people look at it, really important that that's a good experience. Legible font. These are some of the things that you guys have seen where you get to one and you have to do the whole zoom thing and read through it or scroll left and right, to see the whole image. That's just precious time that we're missing from having an optimized listing. Make sure the images fit. This is my favorite tool. It's called a mobile-friendly checker. Has anyone seen this out there? This is launched fairly recently as well. Yeah, you love it? Awesome. Yeah, we're going to make enhancements to this and probably add some bulk functionality as well in the near future. But as of right now, when you're in your listing flow, and again, this is on a new or revised listing flow, there's a new mobile-friendly checker here right above your item description. And this is after you've input your item description, click on this new mobile-friendly checker. And this very item, that's what it looks like on mobile. It'll show you right then what it's going to look like on a mobile device, right? Image is offset. You can't read the font unless you zoom in. And you can almost barely just read the title. And so all you do here is a one single button click. That's all it is. You say, eBay, fix it for me, and that's what happens. Doesn't impact your desktop view at all. This resizes for mobile and for iPad. And so that's what it'll do to your listing. And there are ways also to do it in bulk, but check when you're listing new listings, just check this. And click the one button, and make sure you click Save afterward. We've had some that have done this, and then they just kind of go somewhere else. You've got to click Save to get it to, because you can always revert your changes back.
What is the recommended font size?
16 pixels, 16 CSS pixels.
Why don't you just have that as automatic, and the option would be
Yeah.
at the bottom if you didn't want to.
Yeah, the question is, why isn't that just automatic? And that's a great question. It's one that has come up in a couple workshops. It's something where eBay, we try not to mess with your real estate of the page. That's one thing that we try not to do. That's a lot of the feedback we're getting, so we may talk about just implementing it across the board. There is a snippet of code that you can find. It's called the viewport meta tag. So search eBay viewport meta tag that you can drop into all your listings, and it will do some of the same functionality. It's one more thing to remember. So we're getting that feedback a lot, but we try to kind of stay away from your code and your listing. So that's why we haven't done it. But we're getting a lot of that feedback, so we'll take that back and see.
So I guess by raise of hands, who would just like us to automatically do it? Okay, well,
95%.
Product guys in the back?
Yeah, is anyone?
Yeah, we'll take that back, and that's definitely a conversation we'll have.
Not bulk edit right now. The snippet of code, you can put that in our bulk edit tool. You can just drop it into your listings. You can add it as code, and it will do it. Where do you get it? Where do you drop it? And where do you find it? All right, we'll take. Just come up to me afterwards, or we'll do it during the question. I think we have 2 minutes to get through this, and then we'll just take all the questions and talk about that. Viewport meta tag. Yeah.
So next we have those stumbling blocks. Again, we've taken the buyer, got them into the grocery store, got them to the aisle, got them to the spaghetti sauce, which, Devin, I know you love spaghetti.
Spaghetti sauce.
But we need to change that product for the next presentation. So we get them to the right place, and we get them into the listing. This is the don't blow it section. Let's make sure that we're sealing that deal, pushing them over the edge, and helping them feel comfortable about making that purchasing decision. So I know that a lot of folks are familiar with some of these. Just a couple of highlights. Firstly, let's make sure that we use those structured fields for shipping, for returns. One of the things that we had a great conversation with a seller just the other day who brought up that, hey, I always get caught up with claims or negative feedback because I forgot to make that one little adjustment in my listing description. And that can happen, especially when you're managing hundreds of listings, thousands of listings. Ensuring that you remember to go in and correct that one reference to your shipping cost to make sure that it is consistent with what is appearing in the top of the page can be a difficult thing to do. So make sure that the whole listing is consistent by using those drop-down fields so you only have to manage that change once. Also, disclaimers is another thing that we highlight in these presentations. I think that we've all, as buyers, taken a look at listings and seen that big red block of text that says something along the lines of, I'm not responsible for any damage that occurs in shipping. Has anybody seen some of those? So avoid that. There are other ways to deal with those post-transaction concerns that buyers have from time to time. That's almost as if, again, if we go back to that dumb spaghetti example that you're
come
using.
on. It's pretty nice.
Okay, I like spaghetti too.
Okay.
So if you pick up that spaghetti bottle and look on the label, and there's a big notice that says that this was manufactured in the same factory as rat poison, well, that's going back up on the shelf, right? So do the same thing with your listings. Avoid that language that can be off-putting and ruin all of that hard work that you've done to get the buyer to that listing and consider purchase.
Yeah, just imagine getting to the checkout and the checker saying, hey, if you don't have 5 feedback with this grocery store, you can't buy here, right? So I've seen that in listings as well. So good thing to avoid.
Absolutely. So on the flip side of it, sweeten the deal. There are a number of different things that just have a resonating effect with buyers as they're taking a look at your products. One thing for me is actually the return shipping frame, and it's not because I return products, but just that gives me a sense that the buyer is confident in the products that they're selling, and they're confident in their customer support to solve any issues that I might have. So including a 60-day return policy can actually increase the likelihood that a buyer actually makes that purchase because it again instills some confidence in the transaction. Also, same-day handling time is another one. I know Devin and I, we get really excited when we make purchases. Oh gosh, we just build up that excitement. We're going to buy that lawnmower on eBay. And we make that purchase, and maybe not for lawnmowers, but for some of the other items that exist on the site, and they might have that same-day handling time. And when we get that email after we've completed the transaction that says your item has shipped on that same day that we made the purchase, it just fuels that excitement. It keeps that momentum. And not only does it focus on sealing and completing that transaction, but it actually creates a relationship. And that's one thing to take away from this presentation is that beyond just creating the perfect listing for that single sale, creating a perfect listing so that you can build relationships with buyers and build a repeat business with those buyers is an important thing to grow on the eBay platform.
So let's just quickly recap this again, and then we'll take some questions. So look at your listing from these 3 different aspects. Are you getting them to the aisle? Are you getting them to grab your item, and then are you getting them to drop it into the cart? What are they seeing on your search results page? If you're doing 1 or 2 of the 3 of these things, it's not enough, to be honest. If you have an awesome listing and everything looks great, but you're not using product identifiers and nobody's finding you, it doesn't matter. You're a mirage in the desert that nobody sees, right? And then if you've got the other way around, if you're getting great at getting found and then they get to your listing and it doesn't look great, you're not going to make the sale either. So all of these 3 different parts work together to create the perfect listing. So thank you for your time. We have about 12 minutes for questions. If you just want to line up here, we'll answer questions. Thank you.
You showed a screen where, I forget what it was, the listing of the pricing where you offer the recommendation
Yeah.
of the price. Is that at a default 90 days, or can you set the time frame before you start getting price suggestions?
Sorry,
So the pricing tool, just all of the different points that are plotted.
Yeah,
What's the time frame that?
It's 90 days
90
right now.
days?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, sorry.
The question was, with the pricing tool, what's the time frame that we're looking at, and are you able to make an adjustment? So maybe, can I see what the item was selling for earlier on in the year? Currently, it's set to 90 days, and there is no way to move that.
And it's brand new, so there is a growth workshop where they're going to dig deep into this, and that's the product team that's managing that. So I would go in there and talk to them as well, but it's 90 days. Yeah, go ahead.
So on the mobile checker, sometimes when you go to edit one of either the horizontal scrolling or the meta tag, you do one at a time, but sometimes it like skews the whole picture. So I guess, is there a problem with the listing at that point, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's why we show the view and you can revert the changes. It's going to be a unique case, so we'll have to maybe talk to me after, and we can get the product team to look at that specifically and see what's happening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The sweeten
Well,
same day.
it-
What time does that cut off? 3 o'clock or what? And free shipping, is that on like everything?
Can you speak into the mic so that, sorry, there we
Is
go.
that everything? The free shipping, is that like, or just on first class, or do you
Yeah.
expect free shipping on everything?
Th-
And
that's a good
what is
question.
guaranteed delivery? I don't understand that.
Yeah, sure. So the question is, on that sweeten the deal slide, there were a number of different bullets that were being discussed. I think that a lot of these strategies are going to be on a case-by-case basis for sweetening the deal. Obviously, compared to your competitors, if I'm buying a lawnmower, we might not be able to offer free shipping. But sweetening the deal through a number of different methods compared to your competition, that's kind of the concept. So we don't recommend that in every single case you offer free shipping. You obviously have to keep in mind your business and what you have to pay for shipping and some of those different costs. But those are just some things to think about as you're taking a look at your listing. How do I differentiate myself from the competition to get that sale right now?
Yeah, were you at Bob's keynote this morning?
Yes.
So he presented a stat that said those who offer 0 days versus 60 days, they see 30% increase. This section is really about showing confidence in your product as a seller so the buyer feels confident in it. We don't see a big increase in returns when you go from 30 to 60 days. Buyers just want to feel that comfort when they buy it, but the rate at which they return that item almost doesn't change at all.
You said between the deal 60-day return, you noticed a 30% increase in sales. Is that based off eBay data or?
That's eBay data. That's what we have, yeah. Because we know the return rates. Go ahead.
How you doing?
Thanks.
So we're a medium-sized business that actually run templates based on each individual listing because the specs can be different. We've been using software for modifying those templates. We started with front page a long time ago. We're up to Microsoft Expression Web now. Do you have any sort of tools that are still current that you would recommend? Because Expression Web is no longer under development either, and it's aging like front page was.
So tools for
Modifying code, modifying templates.
Yeah, third-party providers. Yeah, I mean, we work really closely with Fruition. So, and they're here.
Yeah.
Fruition, there's a ton, but the one that I've worked closely with is Fruition and trust them a ton. But we have a whole, I can get you a link, but we have a link of our certified providers, and you can just find the one that meets your needs economically and whatnot.
Sounds good.
There's probably, there are plenty.
How do you handle custom item specifics?
So there's a button that you can click on, or if you're using the API, there's an add item specific
No, I know
function.
that you can do it, but I'm saying how does the search handle it? Will it come up in the left navigation?
No, so that we recommend using eBay's default item specifics as much as possible because that's what we're using to populate that. The custom item specifics will help you with, again, the mobile view and SEO. But if you're not using an eBay default, it's not going to go into the left nav just because we don't have that option.
And we do use that in search to the best of our ability and send that on to Google, but the problem is because it may not be structured based on what Google is using. It may be of little importance. So that's why we recommend that you include those default sections.
And if we see a lot of them, then we will make it default in the future if we see it.
Is there someone that I can talk to about that? Because for my category, none of the ones that you guys supply really make sense.
Okay.
So we're constantly having to do custom ones.
Sure.
Yeah, Gunter is probably a good one to talk to. Yeah, come chat with us
we'll
after
connect you with the right people,
person.
but we'd love to get those insights because we know that there's some opportunities to make sure that things are category specific.
Thank you.
Thanks.
When you list in a particular category, do you have to repeat those words in your valuable title space? For instance, antiques or men's apparel. Do you have to put men and apparel again
In the title?
in the title? Men?
I would use the characters that you have available. I would use as many relevant keywords.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
So I think
The
men
title
is
of
a
the
relevant keyword.
Okay,
I'm
so you have
thinking,
to repeat
you're-
it
you
even
don't-
though it's in the category.
Well, you don't have to, but put yourself in the position of a buyer. What are they searching for? If I'm looking for
So the
men's.
search won't find it unless you put it there.
Well, if you have it in your item specifics or in your description, we do crawl that as well to try and bring those listings to the forefront. But I would make sure to include the most relevant keywords based on what a buyer enters.
Even though it's in the category?
Even if it's in the category,
Okay.
me as a male, as a buyer of fashion, like I would type in men's shoes into the title or into the keyword search. So that's an important thing to include. But again, prioritize the brand and the product itself, and then use that additional space to include additional keywords that you think might be relevant.
Okay.
It's not to say you won't be found, but the more you do, title, item specifics, keywords.
It seems to be repetitive and a waste of space when you're already in that category, but you know, that's.
Well, and yeah, and I would just say prioritize it, right? You know your product better than a buyer does. So include the keywords that a manufacturer supplies, include the material that it's made out of, things that are very relevant to the buying experience, and then potentially they could be searched. Thank you.
Hi there. I currently use 6-bit to list because I know Turbo Lister is going kind of kaput. I used to use eBay to list. I find it very slow, and the number one reason, because I'm a very impatient person, when I list, I want to just fly. The reason is because there's no templates. I use those templates on different items I sell. Is that something that could be coming down the pipeline eventually? You could save.
Yeah, we actually have 50 templates in the Seller Hub listing tool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so that is available.
Yeah, it's available now. So there's 50 templates available. And we also just finished a new customize feature. So in that listing flow, click customize at the top, and you can remove any fields that you don't use. And so that'll just remove more of the,
Cool.
if your impatience is getting.
I'm paying for these third parties, and
yeah.
I don't really have to.
We have templates, 50 templates. So start creating those,
That's
and then you can
plenty.
just adjust the. Okay.
I use probably about 30.
Perfect.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. The templates, when you are listing an item, when you do the first, so you click create listing, start, say tennis shoes. At the bottom, it'll say create a template. So when you're in that first create a listing and you're putting in tennis shoes or whatever it is, at the bottom of that page, after you click create listing, there's a make a template link at the bottom. Yeah, it's a little bit different, but.
Two questions. What's eBay's standard for same-day shipping? I mean, if you have a payment at 5 o'clock, does it have to go out at 5 o'clock, that day? Do you know what the standard is? That is the expectation?
Well, you can set it. I mean, with the new tools, you can set cutoff times.
Okay.
But if you don't have a cutoff time, it's midnight Pacific time. Is you have to have the tracking added.
So it's a tracking added, not necessarily taken to the post office. I mean,
Yeah, we measure
obviously-
the tracking when the tracking's added. Yeah.
Okay.
But take it to the post office too,
Well,
because.
obviously, right. I mean, but there's a cutoff. If you have to be at the post office between 5 and 6 every
Yeah.
day, it's not the most easiest thing. My second question is, I do all of my listings for the most part buy it now, best offer, and I haven't heard anything discussed about best offer at all through this whole thing. We're talking about promotions and markdown manager, but in my mind, best offer gives my customer the right to set their own price.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about why we haven't heard that, or is it not?
It's just not new and fancy. So we're not talking about it, but it is extremely relevant. Our data shows that it does increase sales, and it's up to you and your margins what you accept, and you can do the automated features to accept and reject and all that. Yeah, definitely. We couldn't include it. We only had 30 minutes, and he wanted the spaghetti sauce joke, so
I don't know that I did. But that's a good call out. Definitely important and something that we just weren't able to fit in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My question is about UPCs. Two sort of sections of UPCs. The first is there are international UPCs that exist. They're not just American products. Mm-hmm. I'm out of Canada, and we often have the same package exactly as an American package, but there's French and English. So I'm sure you have the same with Mexico, where you probably have Spanish and English and a lot of products. So they have a new UPC. Recently, just this past week, I was changing the handling time to come down here, and I had a slew of listings literally would not update because the UPCs were no longer valid, yet they were all valid UPCs. Anybody else having that? And it really scared the heck out of me because I'm really good about putting my UPCs in. So I was wondering if someone could look into that, because it didn't seem right that they were fine last month and the months before and suddenly something changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's some folks at the Seller Hub station that we can connect you with that can troubleshoot. I don't know if you're familiar with the GS1 website, but they're kind of the standard in UPCs. One thing that we've noticed with sellers recently is they might be missing like a leading zero with the UPC. So you can actually take the UPC that you're inputting and take it to GS1, and it'll validate it for you.
These were all valid. They
Okay.
were all valid.
And I'm sure that they were. So one thing that, again, just some people miss is either a leading zero and it just doesn't meet the checksum, so the numbers that are supposed to be in a valid UPC. So that's one of the reasons that sellers have seen their listings come down recently. So we can connect you with some folks at the Seller Hub booth, and they can help you understand exactly what's going on.
And the other part of that is I sell a lot of collectibles or old vintage stuff that doesn't have a UPC. And I was wondering how that, I mean, we talked about how the UPC was the key motivator for the first line of search. We're looking for, number 001345. With vintage stuff, there is no. How does that affect the search in comparison to when you have the UPC?
So it's something that we're looking into. We don't want anybody to miss out on the benefit of Google search or Bing search. And so we have some products that we're working on that would potentially allow for sellers of collectible items or items that are non-manufactured to include some sort of identifier to help us at least categorize these and send the information to Google. So there's nothing right now, but the idea is we want to allow all sellers to capitalize on that. So we're working on it.
And unfortunately, we're hitting our time. We're getting so if you want to come meet with us over here in the corner or something and ask a question. Thank you all for coming.